How we doing, guys? Another video for y'all. Let me see if I can get some people on here. So, hola mis amigos, ¿cómo están? Aquí su amigo Raúl. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. Before I get started, just a quick reminder. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to put the link in the comments of this video. So you can go subscribe. I don't have a lot of subscribers yet, but I'm trying to grow my numbers. So please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Don't forget to like this video. If you enjoy the content and you like the information, then please share the video. Share the video with your friends, with your family members. At the end of the day, my goal is just to bring you good financial content, to be able to keep you informed, and to be able to help you make better financial decisions. And today, what we're going to talk about very briefly is the potential housing market crash. Is the real estate market going to crash? Is it going to come burning down, and what you can do to prepare and what you can do to ultimately find better opportunities if you are considering purchasing a home. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about the potential housing market crash. And I got some notes here because I want to make sure that I don't deviate too much with what I want to talk to you guys about. First and foremost, unless you live under a rock, and really today in 2022, most people, that's the only place they can afford to live is under a rock. Because if you haven't noticed, the prices of homes have gone up astronomically. It's just stupid. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The prices of homes are extremely high. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are asking themselves, well, are these prices of homes going to eventually come down? Is there going to be a real estate market correction or a real estate market crash? And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, because even though I don't necessarily think that we're going to have a real estate market crash, I do feel that there are some things lining up to potentially have a real estate market correction. A correction is very different than a crash. A correction means that the real estate market will adjust maybe 10 to 15%, and a crash means that the real estate market will adjust 30 to 40%. That's kind of what happened back in 2008. I think that's one of those unique events that we may not see again in our lifetime, because there was a lot of things that led up to that. But I do think that there's a lot of things happening now that could ultimately give us some type of a better buying opportunity as far as purchasing a home. So let's go over some of those today. So first and foremost, what's the first thing? What is the first catalyst that I think is going to soften buyer demand for homes? Because you have to keep in mind that the real estate market, like everything else, works off of basic economics. What is basic economics? It means that if there's not enough homes and there's a lot of buyers, prices will go up and prices will stay up. And that's currently where we're at right now. We've actually been there for about the last 2 years. Why? Because of the pandemic. And why? Because a lot of people just decided to pull their homes from the market, and there just isn't enough inventory, and there's a lot of buyers. When there isn't enough inventory and there's a lot of buyers, prices of homes are going to go up. There's another major reason why the prices of homes have gone up, and that is inflation. So what is inflation? Well, for the last 2 years since the pandemic started, the federal government, what they did was they started printing a ridiculous amount of money. They printed so much money that some reports show that about 40% of the money that's in circulation today was printed in the last 2 years, which means that it doesn't necessarily mean that your home or homes in general have gone up in value, because nothing really has changed. It really just means that now it just takes more US dollars to buy the same home that you could have bought 2 or 3 years ago. That's really what it means, because that's inflation. And unfortunately, that's what the federal government did with all of the money printing. Now, the reason the federal government printed money was because we were in a worldwide pandemic, which had never really happened before. And they were trying to figure out a way to keep us from going into a Great Depression scenario. So that's why they printed all of that money. I agree with that. I think what ended up happening was they printed money for way too long, and they kept interest rates low for so long that they created this monster of an inflation problem that now they're trying to rectify. Now the government realized we effed up, and this inflation problem is a hell of a lot bigger than we were anticipating. And so we really need to take some drastic steps to be able to rectify that. And that's why the stock market is crashing. And ultimately, that's why the federal government is drastically raising interest rates, which brings me to catalyst number one. What is catalyst number one as far as being able to see an alleviation or some type of an adjustment in the prices of homes? Well, rising interest rates. You see, the original game plan that the federal government had when we started 2022 was that they were going to raise interest rates by 0.25% 7 times this year in 2022, which means that by the end of 2022, we were going to see interest rates and mortgage rates about 1.75% higher than we were probably a year from now. So that would put us somewhere in the vicinity of about maybe 6% mortgage rates. Here's the thing. Just in the last couple of days, the federal government said we're actually going to raise rates by 0.5% 2 times. So the next rate hike, which is supposed to happen in May, they're going to raise rates by 0.5%. And then the next rate hike, which I think is going to happen in June, they're going to raise rates by 0.5%. And then they're going to do 5 more rate hikes of 0.25%, which ultimately is going to put us right around 2.25%, which could have us with mortgage rates actually probably closer to the 7% mark, between 6 and 7%. That is a big freaking deal because we haven't seen mortgage rates that high in a very long time. So that's catalyst number one that is going to soften buyer demand, which means that obviously if mortgage rates are higher, there's going to be people that are going to say, you know what, I'm not gonna buy a home right now. I'm gonna wait. And once again, less buyers will allow us to create more inventory. But I don't think that mortgage rates alone are going to be able to make that adjustment in the housing market that we need to see prices come down, which brings me to catalyst number 2. What is catalyst number 2? Well, there's a lot of people that over the course of the last 6 months to the year have entered contracts to build new homes. You see, the problem with that is that we've had such major supply chain issues because of the pandemic. So basically materials and everything stopped. And so now really you want to build a home, it's going to take you a year. Maybe it'll take you even longer than a year. The surprise that people are going to run into is that the rates that they calculated the home for 6 months to a year ago are going to be drastically different when they actually finalize the home. And generally speaking, you can't lock in the rate for the new build until about 60 days before the home is finalized, which means that when you ran your original numbers, you were running them at 3%. And when the home is actually finished, your rate is probably going to be closer to 7%, which means that what you thought was going to be a $1,500 a month payment can actually be $2,000 or $2,100 or $2,200 a month. That is a big freaking deal. So what that may do is it may cause people to default on those contracts and the new build contracts. So that could be catalyst number 2 that could create that additional inventory that we need. Because remember, the real estate market is not going to crash or it's not going to correct unless we have more homes and less buyers. So interest rates, the rise in mortgage rates is going to be catalyst number 1, and people potentially defaulting on those contracts can be catalyst number 2. Why is that? Well, I will tell you that when people actually calculate how much home they can afford to buy, they usually max out the home that they can afford to buy. So they're like, man, the max that we can do is like $1,600 a month. So most people, when they did those calculations originally with whatever builder is constructing their home, they were already maxed out. Like they were already buying as much home as they could afford to buy, because generally speaking, that's the way people think when it comes to finances, which is why you need to make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, that you follow my videos, that you like them, that you share them, so that I can keep you from making a lot of those mistakes that could put you in a very bad situation. So defaulting on those new construction contracts could be catalyst number 2. And what is catalyst number 3? Well, like I told you, about 40% of the money that's in circulation today was printed in the last 2 years. So that means that property values have gone up. And if property values have gone up, guess what else is going up? Property taxes. And so what's going to happen there is there's a lot of people that are on fixed income, mainly people that are retired. And so if these people are on fixed income, maybe they're on Social Security or some type of a pension or living off of their 401k, well, now their property values are a lot higher, sure, but so are their taxes. And most of the time, these people that are in retirement, they don't have a mortgage anymore because they already paid off their home. So usually they pay their taxes once a year and they pay it in cash. Well, what if you were paying $2,500 for property taxes, and now because your property just drastically increased in price, now you're having to pay $3,500 or $4,000 or $4,500? Then maybe for some of these, older individuals that are on a fixed income, it just might not be worth it for them to keep that home anymore, just because it's just got a lot more expensive because they're having to pay those higher property taxes. And so that might create an opportunity because these people might want to unload on their home and downscale or maybe move to a retirement community. I really think that out of those three catalysts, for sure, the interest rates, those are going up. I mean, that's a fact that's going to happen. The federal government already said that. And I think the biggest one that could potentially heavily affect the housing market is the second catalyst, which is obviously defaulting on those nearer home builds, which can definitely happen because if you were planning to have a $1,500 or $1,600 a month payment and now it's $2,100 or $2,200, obviously you're not going to go through with the deal because you can no longer afford it. So the second one is the one that I think would be the biggest catalyst where we could really see an influx of inventory because we do need to have more inventory to be able to lower the prices of homes. Now, I will tell you this, and you have to keep this in mind. When you're searching for a home, especially for those of you that are in the market for buying a home right now, you have to keep this in mind. If you feel like the home is just drastically overpriced or you don't necessarily feel comfortable with what they're asking for the home, then don't buy the home. Trust your gut feeling. The worst thing that you can do right now is be impulsive in the purchase of a home. Why? Because I do feel like there's going to be better opportunities for you to be able to get into a property over the course of the next 6 months to a year, but it's going to take some time. This is not something that's going to happen very, very quickly. It's going to be a gradual decrease in buyers and a gradual increase in supply. And I feel like with these three catalysts combined, then we can very well see an alleviation in the prices of homes. Maybe not a crash in real estate, but definitely some type of a correction. I do recommend that you look for opportunities though. So let's say, for example, if you find a home and you feel like the home is decently priced, and maybe it's a home that you can put a little bit of elbow grease in, and you maybe can do some painting, do a little bit of renovation that's not going to cost you too much money, and you feel like that upgrading can ultimately increase the value of your home, and you think that it's a good buy, then go ahead and pull the trigger. There's always opportunities out there if you find them, but this is definitely not the time for you to be impulse buying. And so very important as part of this process, if you're working, like let's say, for example, with a real estate agent, you got to make sure that the real estate agent that's working with you is on par with your goals and understands what it is that you are trying to do and understands that, they need to look out for your own best interest. A good real estate agent is going to be patient. And you have to keep in mind that once you find a good real estate agent, you got to make sure that you stick with that agent because that agent doesn't make money until you actually buy a house. So if that agent is doing all the work for you for, 6 months, waiting for a good opportunity to get you into a home, and then you go off in a different direction, then they just work for free for the last 6 months. So don't do that, but make sure that the real estate agent is looking out for your best interest because this still is very, very much a seller's market, not a buyer's market. But there's a couple of things that are kind of building up on the back end that can turn this around, I think, over the course of the next year. How drastically is this going to be? I don't know. It really just depends on how some of those things pan out. But it's definitely something to look forward to for those of you guys that are looking to get into a home. And, guys, at the end of the day, patience is key. Delayed gratification. You got to make sure that you make smart buys. I know what you're thinking because you're thinking, well, if I wait longer to buy a home, doesn't that necessarily mean that I'm going to pay higher interest rates when I actually finance my home? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. You will pay higher interest rates. But here's the thing, and it's very important for you to remember. If you buy a home that is worth $200,000, but you pay $250,000, what's going to happen if we have a real estate correction is that, well, now you pay $250,000 for a home that's only worth $200,000 and you have negative equity on that home, which means that what if you get a better job opportunity somewhere else and you have to sell the home? In order for you to be able to unload that home that is worth $200,000 and you pay $250,000, you yourself are going to have to put out of pocket the $50,000 to be able to get out of that property. And that is a very, very bad situation to be in. On the other hand, if you buy a home that's worth $200,000 and you pay $200,000 and maybe your interest rate is 6% or 6.5%, it's a lot higher than what it is right now. You can always refinance the home. So don't worry too much about the interest rate. Even if it does make your monthly payment bigger, you need to focus more on making a smart buy and less on trying to get a lower interest rate because you can always refinance. And I'll tell you that the federal government, once they control inflation, Once they see that things have leveled out, they will lower interest rates again because they don't want to put us in a Great Depression. They don't want to put us even into a recession, but I think a recession is highly probable just by everything that I see happening, and just the last week that we had on the stock market. But ultimately, it's more important for you to buy a home that is valued at the price that you paid for, or maybe even less, than concerning yourself so much with the interest rate that you're paying, because the interest rate can always be adjusted in the future when you refinance. But making a bad purchasing decision is going to be very, very difficult for you to be able to get out of that. So as usual, I bring you this information and I bring you this content, not necessarily because I want you to buy a home or not buy a home. I mean, this is not to be taken as financial advice. This is for education purposes only, but really to give you some guidance to be able to make better financial decisions, because the real estate market right now, unfortunately, is still very, very much a seller's market. There isn't a lot of inventory, and these things need to actually play out in order to create more inventory and less buyers to create better opportunities for you to purchase a home. So as usual, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share this content, because I feel like there's a lot of people that can find this useful, at least help them make some better decisions. And ultimately, my goal is to bring you the most current, the most up-to-date financial information, especially for the people that live here in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, so I want to make sure that you guys make better financial decisions. The Rio Grande Valley is my home. It's where I've lived my whole life. And at this point, it's probably the only place that I can afford to live, because if you've seen the prices of homes anywhere else in the country, we're still very blessed. The Rio Grande Valley, on occasion, does come up with some pretty good deals. You guys have a very, very blessed day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with you soon. Thank you.